Hey everybody, in today's video I'm going to go over comparing interest that accrues on a monthly basis versus a daily basis and what that difference can look like over a period of 1 to 2 years and just how much of a difference that makes. So I'm going to create some variables here. One for the interest rate, which I'm going to use set at 18%, so an annual interest rate, and we're going to adjust this so it compounds on a monthly and a daily basis. Got a principal amount, so let's suppose we've got a credit card balance of $10,000, and let's say we're going to make payments of $500 every month. So the key thing is we're going to create a schedule here, and on the one side it's going to be monthly and on the other is going to be daily. So I'm going to put annual here for this interest rate here, then monthly, and then daily. So on a monthly basis, we're going to take this interest rate, divide it by 12. If it's daily, divide it by 365. Now I've seen some places use 360, but if you truly want to get a daily interest rate, then 365 is what you want to use. And anytime you're using creating templates or files to use, it's useful, I find, to color code your cells. So yellow would be, in my example, I'm using yellow as cells that you edit, whereas the gray ones being formulas and calculations. So I got my variables set up. Now I'm going to create the actual schedule. So I'm going to have one column for the month, and I'm going to have my starting balance, the interest amount, and my ending balance. So this first one is going to be for my monthly interest calculation, and I'm going to determine what my balance is carrying over. So I'm going to type in January 2023 just as my starting point and pull this down so you can see Excel automatically fills it in. So let's go to the end of, let's say, December 2024, just so we got a fair bit of time in here. So for the starting balance, it's going to be this $10,000, because that's obviously what we're starting from. And then subsequent quarters or subsequent months, it's going to be the ending balance from the prior period. So we've got the interest rate, and the interest rate is going to be, or the interest amount is going to be the balance. Multiply that by our monthly rate there. All right, so we've got that. And the ending balance is simply going to be the starting balance, and then we're going to deduct the difference between the payment and the interest amount. Okay, so we're taking the difference between the 500 and that 150, so whatever is not going towards the interest is going to pay down the principal. Now, before I copy these formulas down, the one thing I'm going to do is freeze some of these calculations. So B7, that's related to the starting balance, so that is fine because we're always going to be looking at this starting balance. B4, this is the payment out, so that's going to stay frozen. So that needs to stay constant. So F4 to freeze that. C7 is this interest rate that can also move. Now in this case, C2, we've got that interest rate. So again, I want to freeze that. So this is an important thing to remember to do, especially when you're copying formulas, just because if you don't, then your calculations may be off. So now that we've got that, I'm going to copy this down, and just to make sure that it is copying correctly here. So that looks to be correct. So I'm just going to adjust the formatting here so it's consistent. Don't really need the decimal places at this point. I'll keep them for the interest, but to save space, I've got it without that for these ones. So as you can see, by December 2024, now I haven't adjusted this so it fits equals 0, but the point I'm doing here is just to calculate these interest costs. So I've got the monthly interest costs. Now what I'm going to do is do another schedule, and this time for the daily interest. So again, the same thing. I'm going to do month starting balance. I'm also going to count the number of days within a month just to be as precise as possible. Then the interest amount and my ending balance. So The month, again, this is just going to be identical to here. Just going to have the same thing. The starting balance, again, is going to be 10,000 as well. And then for the number of days, what I'm going to do is do a calculation here to compute the number of days that fall between the start of the month and the end of the month. To do that, I'm going to use the eDate function. So I specify the start date and the number of months. So I'm going to jump 1 month ahead and subtract the same date, but I'm going to go get the start. So in January, we know there's 31 days in a month. So that's calculating correctly. And now to calculate the interest cost, what I'm going to do is take that daily interest rate, multiply that by my balance, and by the number of days. So it gets me $152.88. So you can see it's $2.88 more than this amount here. So slightly more. But we'll see how that plays out over the course of a full year. So for the ending month, it's going to be the same logic as before, taking that starting balance, subtracting the difference between the payment and the interest amount. So we've got that. And so I'm ready to copy this formula down. It's the same sort of thing. We want to make sure that freezing the right values. So in this case, the interest, we need to freeze that amount in cell D2. But other than that, everything else can calculate. It doesn't need to be frozen. So I'll copy that down. And so here we got February. So you can see automatically calculates that there's 28 days in February. So we can see this calculation is working correctly. So I'll copy this all the way down. Oh, I've got some value error. So I've probably, and it was think, yeah. So this is what happens, unfortunately. Forgot to freeze one of these. So that payment amount needs to stay frozen. So F4, copy that down. There we go. So that looks better. So now we've got our interest cost. So now let's compare these two. So I'm going to use the summation formula just to grab a quick sum of this interest. And that's $1,978.27. And do the same thing here. Grab the interest costs here, $1,975. So we're talking a negligible difference over multiple periods here, or multiple years even. So $2.74. So the difference is fairly insignificant. I mean, when you're looking at a period of how many months are we looking at here? We're looking at 24 months. That's a full 2 years, a difference of $2.74. So you're not really better or worse off regardless of whether it's compounding on a monthly basis or on a daily basis. Now, let's say you don't believe me. You want me to prove this out. So let's take a look at how it would look like for the month of January. So I'm going to create another schedule here, one for the day, starting balance, interest, and then ending balance. Let me just adjust my margins here so it's easier to see these headers. So in January, we know that there are 31 days. So I'm just going to say equals this plus 1 until I get down to 31. Because copying this down, Excel might not figure out the pattern that I'm trying to do. So I'm just trying to make it easy, get down to 31. So we've got 31 days. Now, the starting balance, this is always going to stay at 10,000 because, if the interest is accruing every single day, we're not making payments until the end of the month. So this starting balance is actually going to be frozen just for the purpose of, illustrating what this is going to look like. So that 10,000 is going to stay the same because we're not paying this off until the end of the month. So we've got our starting balance there of 10,000, and what I'm going to do is take that 10,000 and multiply it by that daily interest rate. I'm going to freeze that value just because that's not going to change, and copy that all the way down. And actually, I don't need this ending balance because again, this balance is not going to change over the course of the month until the end of the month. So if I were to sum up this total here, that gets me $152.88 for the month of January. And you can see that's the exact same amount I've got here, $152.88. So even if it's accruing, every single day on that starting balance. That's the total interest cost on a daily basis. If you like this video, please remember to hit like and subscribe, and also check out some of the other videos that I've got available as well. Thanks for watching.